1874, aimed to displace the Comanche, Kiowa, Southern Cheyenne, and Arapaho Native American tribes from the Southern Plains, compelling them to move to reservations in Indian Territory. Commencing in June 1874, the campaign was prompted by a series of assaults on settlers by the Southern Plains Indians. It's essential to note that these hostilities stemmed from the government's failure to fulfill its obligations outlined in the 1867 Treaty of Medicine Lodge. The agreement outlined the establishment of 2 reservations in Indian Territory as per the treaty, one for the Comanche and Kiowa and another for the Southern Cheyenne and Arapaho. The terms included provisions for training, housing, food, and supplies, encompassing guns and ammunition for hunting. In return, the Native American tribes committed to ceasing their attacks and raids on white settlers. Despite the establishment of reservations, the promised provisions for the tribes fell significantly short of expectations. Food and supplies were consistently scarce or absent altogether. The terms of the treaty were disregarded by commercial buffalo hunters who encroached upon the land designated for the Southern Plains Indians, massacring thousands of buffalo. Outlaws and profiteers, also trespassing on tribal lands, stole cattle and engaged in illicit trade of guns and liquor. Despite the efforts of Quaker missionaries, acting as federal Indian agents to draw attention to these issues, they faced no cooperation from the Office of Indian Affairs in Washington or the military. As conditions deteriorated, many Indians on the reservations opted to leave, joining renegade bands that had returned to the Texas plains. Facing a dire situation due to insufficient rations and the depletion of their primary resource, the buffalo by hunters, the tribes found themselves in a desperate plight. In an unusual move, a Comanche medicine man named Isatai advocated for a sun dance in the spring of 1874, deviating from the traditional Comanche practices. During the gathering, Isatai prophesied victory for warriors engaging in a battle against the buffalo hunters, aiming to eliminate the threat to their vital resource. Teaming up, he and Comanche chief Quanah Parker devised a strategy to confront the buffalo hunters. After assembling a group of warriors, they journeyed to the Texas Panhandle with the intent of dismantling the settlement at Adobe Walls. This event, recognized as the Second Battle of Adobe Walls, witnessed a joint force of approximately 700 Comanche, Cheyenne, Kiowa, and Arapaho warriors, under the leadership of Chief Quanah Parker and Isatai, launching an attack on the buffalo camp in the early morning of June 27, 1874. Despite the post being defended by only 28 men, including iconic Old West figures Bat Masterson and Billy Dixon, Isatai's prophecy proved to be nothing more than an illusion. Even though facing a significant numerical disadvantage, the hunters managed to fend off the Indian assault due to their superior weaponry. After enduring 4 days of relentless battle, approximately 100 men arrived to bolster the post, prompting the Indians to withdraw. While estimates of casualties differ, it's believed that up to 70 Indians lost their lives, and many others, including Chief Parker, sustained injuries. The aftermath of the Adobe Walls confrontation not only dealt a severe spiritual blow to the Indians, but also set the stage for the Red River War of 1874-75. This conflict ultimately culminated in the permanent relocation of the Southern Plains Indians to reservations. Following the conflict, the U.S. Army swiftly developed strategies to permanently bring the Southern Plains tribes under control. Thousands of troops were rapidly deployed to the Texas Panhandle, forming a perimeter around the area where the Indian bands were located. The strategy dictated that the troops would sustain an ongoing offensive against the tribes. Over the subsequent year, as many as 20 encounters unfolded between the U.S. Army and the Southern Plains Indians, spanning the Texas Panhandle region, Indian Territory, and southern Kansas. Exhausting the Indians who were in constant motion, the well-armed army managed to corner a significant number of them in the Battle of Palo Duro Canyon on September 28, 1874. The remaining Indians who remained at large engaged in several minor skirmishes throughout the fall and winter of 1874-75. Nevertheless, the persistent army received reinforcements from Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and Forts Griffin and Richardson, Texas. The Indians continued to surrender, and the final holdouts, including Quanah Parker and his warriors, capitulated at Fort Sill, Indian Territory, on June 2, 1875. On that particular day, Colonel Ranald S. Mackenzie, leading the 4th U.S. Cavalry, launched an assault and obliterated a sizable Indian camp situated in Palo Duro Canyon. Following the Indian Trail, Mackenzie's scouts tracked it to the rim of Palo Duro Canyon, from where the soldiers descended the steep slopes, reaching the valley floor 700 feet below. Caught off guard, the Indians hastily deserted their villages, giving Mackenzie the opportunity to seize over 1,100 horses, which were subsequently put down to thwart any attempts at recapture. While there were minimal casualties among both Indians and soldiers, the relentless pursuit by the troopers and harsh cold weather ultimately brought an end to the Indian resistance. Stranded without horses and essential supplies, the warriors started returning to their reservations.